Um, I didn't even know they were fighting, to be honest with you. But I like Charles Conwell. Um, you know what? I'll talk about this before I get out the live because I do like Bakhram Murtazaliev. I feel like Bakhram Murtazaliev is a very good. He's a good fighter, and he had a hard road to become champion. Dudes didn't want to fight him. Charlo didn't want to fight him. Um, he had to wait his turn for a long, long time. Took some step aside money, right? He beats the brakes off Tim Tszyu. He becomes champion. He gets everybody talking about him, right? And then now, like, none of the champions are eager to fight him because let's be real, Bakhram doesn't speak English. There's not a ton of marketability there in terms of his earning potential, right? He's not Canelo. He's not Ryan Garcia or these kind of guys, but he's a very good fighter. He's one of the most ducked and avoided champions in boxing, right? But I didn't like what Bakhram did recently. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I might try to go find it, but let me go try to find it while I'm talking to you guys about it. But Bakhram, he was on Twitter, right, recently, and he was whining and complaining about how guys don't want to fight him, right? And he's not wrong. I don't think fighters are eager to fight him at all. Let me see if I can find it. Go to my bookmarks. Charles Conwell, who's one of the top contenders, he went ahead and he raised his hand. He said he wanted to fight Bakhram. And Bakhram started playing this A-side stuff. He started saying like, oh, well, you're not a big name, you don't bring nothing to the table. And I didn't like that because, Bakhram just became in the eyes of people who, follow the 154 division and just boxing in general, he just became somebody. He just became someone to pay attention to at 154 for most people. He was not like a premier name or someone that people had on their radar. He just got on the radar. And so for him to like downplay a Charles Conwell fight, I didn't like that from him. Because that was once him. Jermell Charlo used to big time Bakhram. A lot of these guys did not want to fight Bakhram when they're in position to fight him. So now he's champion, and he's doing the same thing that was done to him. And I think that's a fight that should happen. I think Bakhram and Charles Conwell will be an amazing fight. I understand it wouldn't make a lot of money. I understand as much as you can say Bakhram is a high-risk, low-reward fighter. Charles Conwell is a high-risk, low-reward fighter. I understand it. But I just don't like the optics of how he was talking. Because, right now, I don't think like Robert Garcia used to train Bakhram, right? So Robert Garcia, I don't think wants to make that fight happen. I don't think Robert Garcia is in a rush to make Virgil Ortiz versus Bakhram because he himself knows from training Bakhram early in his career as a prospect how good Bakhram is. Probably better than we do, better than the public knows, right? So I don't think that fight happens anytime soon. Bandura is definitely not fighting Bakhram. Crawford left the division. They're probably going to elevate Yohannes Talise. He's not going to fight Bakhram. The champions are not going to fight Bakhram. So my thing is this: when a guy raises his hand and says he wants to fight you, and you can't get fights against no big names, and there's a legitimate argument to be made that Charles Conwell might even have a bigger fan base than Bakhram, and he's not even a big star himself. You got to make the fight happen, So I want to see that fight. It's a great fight. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the fight they need to make. Considering the current landscape, do you believe Jermell can still become a champion in 154? That's a great question. Because he technically is the champion in recess, and he's, before I answer your question, because I know I started this live, in about an hour and a half ago, I was talking some trash about Terence Crawford, or not trash, but I was just saying things that were not positive about Terence Crawford because he said some things I didn't agree with. Now, I'm going to get on Crawford's side in this case because Terence Crawford said before he came to 147, he literally said while he was pummeling Errol Spence, beating the brakes off of Errol Spence, while he was literally looking outside the ring, pummeling Errol Spence, calling out Jermell Charlo while he was becoming the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. And Charlo, he went and he fought Canelo at 168. He cashed out. He didn't even try to win the fight. Right? And I think he ducked Terence Crawford. Honestly, he ducked daylights out of Terence Crawford. So it's funny how now that Crawford is moving to the 168, now all of a sudden Jermell want to come back. So I'll point that out. But as far as the current landscape, it all depends because it's hard to really gauge that because there's no way of knowing what kind of shape he's in. We know he hasn't fought in well over a year. So it all depends on what kind of shape was he keeping himself in while he wasn't fighting. Now, if he was enjoying the fruits of his labor, going on vacation, eating barbecue, eating donuts, eating unhealthy food, and he had to cut a bunch of weight, then I think that doesn't bode well for him because when you're not in the boxing ring, boxing's a repetition sport. When you're not in the boxing ring, the thing you lose your most is your timing, right? And so to fight all these guys that are champions stuff, these guys are matched for these guys have been fighting in top fights. Let's go champion by champion, right? As far as Bakhram is concerned, that's a good fight. I would lean slightly towards Bakhram because I don't think Charlo will make 154 as comfortably as he used to, and Bakhram is very strong and he's fighting on all cylinders right now. So I would hedge Bakhram as a slight favorite if they fought. And I would say that probably the easiest guy to beat of the bunch for Charlo, I don't think it'll be Fundora either. I think Fundora right now, I would even pair Fundora against Charlo just because, Fundora, bone density, punch you a couple, he gets on top of you. He wears you down and beats the fight out of you, right? I think the route he would probably be best suited to go when he does come back would be the WBA route and fight Yoenis Talise. Now, look, Yoenis Talise is a good young fighter. He moves around a lot, but he doesn't have the experience of Charlo. I like that fight for him, but obviously in a commercial sense, it's not the biggest fight. So could he become champion again? I would say yes, he can. If I had to put a percentage on it out of 100, I would say I'd put it like at about 40%. I give it and the only reason I wouldn't put it higher than 40% is because I don't think Charlo, his heart is in boxing anymore. Because if his heart was truly in boxing, he wouldn't have taken that long of a time off, and he would have fought harder against Canelo. That's what I think. I think he's lost his love for the sport, which is natural. It happens to plenty of fighters, Bakhram needs to stop playing games. Bach versus Conwell is one of the best fights to make. Also, why is Bach crying when Bohachuk is in the division? I don't think Bohachuk would duck him or dodge him. Listen, man, these guys know. These 54-pounders know. They all know. Virgil knows because he got put on his ass twice by Bohachuk, got a gift. Maybe not a gift. Gift's extreme. But he got a decision he probably shouldn't have gotten. Had Virgil Ortiz looking how he never looked before, right? In that fight. I thought he beat Virgil. Been in there, been one of the most consistently active 154-pounders. These guys know that Bohachuk is not an easy out. Long, rangy, has the Ukrainian, Eastern European fundamentals, but still has that. But then he's trained with two Mexican trainers his whole pro career. Abel Sanchez early in his career, and then towards the middle part to now, Manny Robles. So he's got a versatile style. He doesn't get tired. He punches hard. And you won't make a lot of money fighting him. So I understand why these fighters don't run to fight Bohachuk. But, that's a fight I feel, along with Conwell, that Bakhram should be calling for. And he ain't calling for it. Bakhram, he's not quite Johnny Beck level yet because Johnny Beck calls out everyone but the guys in his weight class that he could actually fight. But, if he keeps what he's doing up for another year or so, he'll start to enter the Johnny Beck territory of calling out all the guys that he knows won't fight him that are not in his weight class. Lubin is down to fight Bach. I think so. I'm not the biggest Erickson Lubin fan, but Lubin, one thing about him is that Lubin will fight anybody. Lubin will fight any and everybody. His track record proves that. He's got to get past Adriel Holmes. I think, look, that's a fight I think Lubin would win. I think Lubin can beat Bakhram. Lubin has the skills, the punching power, and the experience to deal with Bakhram. If he could take Bakhram, if he has the durability, if he's got the beard, I think he could beat Bakhram. That's a good fight. That's actually a pick'em fight. I think that's like a 50-50 fight,